you suppose you could turn the Earth a little bit so we could get a little bit more than just water? Roger, 11. I don't think we got much control over that. Looks like you'll have to settle for the water.
It's worth noting that during both the first Apollo 11 telecast and also the Little Gem, Charlie Duke comments on the TV quality, comparing it to the telecasts from Apollo 10.
Hello, 11. Houston, the Goldstone TV said that when you get a sharp vertical line on a picture where the horizontal banding goes across, it does appear to bend it slightly. It's the same as Apollo 10, they said. Looks okay to them, over. Bye-bye. Okay, my comments were from Goldstone that they see no white spots as we saw in 10. Looks like the AJC is working real well. The F-22 looks good, over. Do you see any resemblance between the card and the guy holding the card?
Now that you mention it.
Bart Sibrel also picked up on this, and during the production of Astronauts Gone Wild, questioned John Young about it.
I'm Bart with ABC Digital.
How you doing?
I was given a classified tape from the Apollo program. It's 31 years old. It's an unedited reel, including outtakes from the mission. It's got about 20 takes of a single shot of the mission.
What mission?
Apollo 11.
Yes.
And the photography is being forged in the mission. They're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon. And they refer to you on the tape as a shot that was done during Apollo 10, where you put a transparency over the window and move the camera of the Earth and move the camera back away from the window, turned off the lights in the spacecraft, and appeared to be halfway to the moon when in fact they were in Earth orbit.
Huh, really?
Yeah, and they said it was the same way that you did it on Apollo 10.
I decided to do my own investigation on this, so I purchased the Apollo 10 DVD set from Spacecraft Films. Indeed, there were many telecasts showing a far-off Earth. The first one has been logged as being shot 5 hours and 6 minutes into the flight. As we watch this, first of all, the horizontal banding we saw in the Little Gem is most obvious. Second, the exterior of the lunar module Snoopy is clearly visible. So the image of Earth in this transmission could not possibly be a transparency clipped to the window. No astronauts are seen in this telecast. The video seems to run continuously, that is, up until it nears the end, when the camera suddenly cuts.
Negative, we got about, quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen, Tom. Looks like
Note also that during this camera cut, Charlie Duke says, "We got quite a ways to go before we fill up our screens."
It's really beautiful.
Okay, Houston, I got a question. Does that picture fill up your whole screen now? I want to correlate it with our monitor.
Negative, we got about, quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen, Tom. Looks like about the size of a basketball or so to us. It's pretty hard. You're zooming in now.
A quick look at the Apollo 10 transcript logs this statement at 5 hours, 17 minutes and 57 seconds into the flight, and it clearly documents Duke's statement as a single sentence.
Negative, we got about, quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen, Tom. Looks like about the size of a basketball or so to us. It's pretty hard.
This means that the audio dialogue is running continuously, but the video feed they are receiving is edited.
We got about, quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen, Tom. Looks like about the size of it.
The second transmission from 10 is logged as being shot 7 hours and 11 minutes ground elapsed time.
Yes, indeed. If you could
During the
roll
7-Eleven
the camera
transmission,
right or left
something
90
gets in the
degrees,
way
and
between the
then
camera
zoom
and the
a little more,
Earth.
we could fill up nearly the whole screen.
It's clearly the wrong shape to be the edge of the window. Shortly afterwards, the camera cuts. Moments before the camera cuts, Mission Control reports, "There you go, 10, that's good." After this cut, he reports, "Right, and we've got the North Pole on the right side of our screens down here."
There you go, 10. That's good. All right, and we've got the North Pole on the right of our screen down here, and the Atlantic Ocean with
The NASA transcript logs the respective mission time occurrences for these two statements as 7:12:06 and 7:12:15, or 9 seconds apart, which is exactly the same time they occur on the Spacecraft Films DVD.
There you go, 10. That's good. All right, and we've got the North Pole on the right of our screen down here, and
It's another case of live audio with edited video footage. Later in the same telecast, Houston Control requests an interior shot.
Houston,
But suspiciously, the camera blacks out before we go inside the capsule, and vice versa when we go back out again.
Apollo 10, Houston. We've completed the uplink. You can go back to block.
Roger, we're in block.
Roger. Okay, you're coming through on our black and white monitor now. Very well. We'll see the color in a minute.
I'll take it back over here out my left window and show the Earth again.
Roger, 10. Okay, 10, we're getting the Earth now. We've got the Terminator to our left, and looks like the South Pole on the top of the screen.
The third video was shot at 27 hours into the flight.
Out here looking down
The
at
camera looks continuously at the Earth for a little more than 11 minutes, before the Apollo 10 crew bring the camera in for interior shots.
Okay, we're going to take you inside. That's probably been said before.
As with the previous telecast, the view blacks out before we see the inside of the capsule.
Okay, we're picking up your transmission from inside now.
It's interesting to note that during this particular telecast, the astronauts were doing their best to prove they were on their way to the moon.
This is a real testimonial to prove you were there, in case there are any doubters.
People want to know what kind of men go to the moon. There's a good look at one right there. Could you believe it? Some people still don't.
Whilst there is no question that they are in genuine zero gravity, the one thing they never did to prove their distance from the Earth was keep the camera rolling as they pointed it out the window. Watch as the lights go out again when the astronauts decide to get another shot of the
You all
Earth.
haven't set this to music.
You want music? Well, we'll give you some music at the conclusion here. Okay, we'll take you back outside now.
Roger.
Well, Tom shows you that. We've got another little rendition we'd like to put your way.
Roger, we're standing by.
Here it comes. This is just so that you guys don't get too excited about the TV and forget what your job is down there.
We're ready for what we're about to receive.
Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
The fourth TV broadcast came in at 47 hours ground elapsed time. It starts off with interior shots of the crew, during which the astronauts show off their star chart. As with the Apollo 11 Little Gem, this particular video has cuts throughout the interior scenes, like so.
To medium width and then back to narrow, over.
Just before the first cut, the Capcom states, "We'd like you to go to high gain to medium width and then back to narrow." After the camera cut, Gene Cernan asks, "How's that?"
Roger. Our signal strength is down about 10 dB. We'd like you to go high gain to medium width and then back to narrow, over.
How's that?
Stand by.
Now it's a matter of finding the portions in the transcript. I did find the passage, but discrepancies immediately showed up. This camera cut occurred less than 2 minutes into the video.
How's that?
Stand by.
And Spacecraft Films claims this telecast began at the 47-hour mark. The Apollo 10 transcripts, however, logs this interaction at the 47-hour, 4-minute and 22-second mark. Remembering that Spacecraft Films claims this video began at the 47-hour mark, at 15 seconds into this telecast, Gene Cernan says the words "interior-wise."
Interior-wise, we're giving them a look at the star
If
chart.
Spacecraft Films are being truthful, Cernan therefore made this statement at the 47-hour, 15-second mark. Yet the transcript logs this statement at the 47-hour, 3-minute and 15-second mark. The transcript also reveals that some 3 minutes earlier, Cernan confirmed that the camera was rolling. Moments later, Charlie Duke acknowledges that the signal is being received. This means Spacecraft Films excluded the first 3 minutes of the 47-hour telecast. It's also worth noting that according to the transcript, after Mission Control's high gain to medium request, Cernan replies, "Okay, it's medium, and now I'll go to narrow." The Capcom says, "Roger." Then, and only then, does Cernan ask, "How's that?" These two quotes were absent on the Spacecraft Films disc. Instead, all we got was a camera cut.
Our signal strength is down about 10 dB. We'd like you to go high gain to medium width and then back to narrow, over.
How's that?
Stand by.
The second cut occurs while Cernan holds the Apollo 10 patch to the camera. Charlie Duke says, "Takes me a while to catch up on those things," moments before the camera cuts. After it does cut, Cernan replies, "I think that's where we are."
Charlie, if I told you about that.
Right. Takes me a little while to catch on to those things.
I think that's where we are.
The transcript shows that between these two quotes, Cernan joked, "Where better can we give you an astronomical description than in the astronomical heavens?" Duke laughed. This was also absent on the Spacecraft Films DVD, and in its place, the footage was clearly cut.
Right. Takes me a little while to catch on to those things.
I think that's where we are.
Watch now as the shot of the patch continues.
With the orientation of the stars, both, even if you can't see them. you can have a feel for where they ought to be, which is, I think, is going to help us out.
Right, 10, we're still having problems locking up. We'd like you to go to wide beam for 30 seconds and then back to narrow. Over.
I can see it with the naked eye, and then I put
The camera suddenly cuts from the patch to a shot of John Young peering into the navigation telescope. Just before this cut, Duke requests that the astronauts go wide beam for 30 seconds and then back to narrow. When we see Young's back, Sinan says, "See it with the naked eye."
We'd like you to go to wide beam for 30 seconds and then back to narrow. Over.
I can see it with the naked eye, and then I put
The transcript logs these two statements as being made 1 minute and 40 seconds apart. It seems not only do we have evidence of continuous audio running synchronized to edited video, but also evidence that footage has been cut and passed off as complete. But the most significant exclusion of 47-hour GET footage is the view of Earth they saved for last. We see the Earth in this telecast, but predictably, not before the camera cuts.
10 Houston, we're expecting high gain loss in about 1 minute. Over. 10 Houston, Madrid has a good TV picture.
Just before the interior to exterior shot, Charlie Duke says,
Okay.
10 Houston, we are expecting high gain loss in about 1 minute, over. As soon as the shot starts, he says, Madrid has a good TV picture.
10 Houston, we're expecting high gain loss in about 1 minute. Over. 10 Houston, Madrid has a good TV picture.
These two comments from Duke were made 14 minutes apart. Yet 1 minute and 6 seconds after his loss in 1 minute statement, Duke confirmed that Madrid was receiving Apollo 10's video of Earth. This confirms that minutes of interior and exterior video were not included on the spacecraft film's DVD set, and this edited version was sold as complete. It gets better. During this particular shot of Earth, Duke says, I think they can broadcast this stuff out in black and white.
Spain, Portugal are in view, so the folks down in that part of the area ought to be getting a good picture of themselves right now.
Alright. I think they can broadcast that stuff out. I was just going to say, I think they can broadcast that stuff out in black and white live. For the color, it has to come over here, be converted, and transmitted back.
In the transcript, the word broadcast was censored. Note also how, as Duke says, they're probably seeing it in black and white, the camera cuts from one angle to another.
I think they can broadcast that stuff out in black and white live. For the color, it has to come over here, be converted, and transmitted back in a color for the people over in that area, but probably seeing it in black and white.
It's another example of live audio synced with edited video. So let's see. Presuming that spacecraft films are being truthful in their complete footage selling point, and that this footage was broadcast live as Duke said, are we to believe that the networks were receiving this telecast in its edited state?
The people over in that area, but probably seeing it in black and white.
Out of the entire 47 GET telecast, less than 8 minutes were included on the spacecraft film's DVD. As just demonstrated, at least 5 minutes of it was censored. The next telecast, featured on the spacecraft film's disc, is logged as being filmed at 49 hours and 54 minutes into the flight. It runs for about 2.5 minutes and looks continuously at the Earth. However, the title card given says it's the 6th telecast from Apollo 10, not the 5th. Presumably, there was another telecast between the respective videos filmed at the 47-hour mark and the 49-hour mark. So why is it not included on the spacecraft film's DVD? Telecast number 7 is dated as being shot 53 hours, 35 minutes and 30 seconds ground elapsed time.
Here's the low from the 5 of us on Apollo 10. Here's Tom Stafford, John Young, and yours truly, Gene Cernan. Okay, that's the 3 of us, and here's the other 2 on Apollo 10. Your friendly Charlie Brown, and our ever-loving companion Snoopy.
Of course, before we get to see what the 5 Apollo 10 crew members are looking at, the camera conveniently blacks out.
Okay, now you know that there's 5 of us up here. We'd like to take you outside and show you what the 5 of us are looking at.
Roger. Okay.
And again, when it's time to go back inside the capsule.
Okay, we'll take you back inside here now. I'll take her. Question for today, who is that?
It looks like John Young with 4 sets of eyes there. Or 2 sets of eyes.
There you go.
Let's call it 4 eyes. Looks like a World War I aviator.
And again, when we go back outside.
Okay, this is Apollo 10. We'll take you outside for one last look at the Earth and sign off.
Roger, thank you very much.
The final telecast filmed on the way to the moon is dated 72:20 mission time. Just over 4.5 minutes after a continuous shot of Earth, Thomas Stafford announces they'll be taking the camera back inside.
We'll give you a quick shot on the interior now, and then we'll terminate this pass. We'll go inside now.
Of course, not before the lights go out.
Very good. Thank you much for the view. We'll be standing by for the inside.
You can also notice how Gene Cernan deliberately covered the camera lens with the Apollo 10 insignia card.
For the view, we'll be standing by for the inside. Hello, Apollo 10. Houston, you're coming in on the black and white monitor now.
During this interior scene, Charlie Duke comments, "The patch is visible, but it's pretty dark, due to the background being so bright." Just as Duke says the last word in his sentence, the camera cuts.
Side one, I guess it is. The patch is visible, but it's pretty dark due to the background being so bright.
The next quote we hear is Duke's, "10, do you read, over?"
10, do you read, over?
The transcript logs these respective quotes 1 minute and 10 seconds apart. The exact time elapse on the spacecraft films disc. Later, we can see the mission's command pilot, Thomas Stafford. When commenting on the beard he has grown over the mission, Stafford says, "That's known as a 72-hour shadow, Charlie." Duke replies, "Yes, sir."
That's known as a 72-hour shadow, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
These two quotes were made only 5 seconds apart, but in the video feed there is clearly a cut between them.
That's known as a 72-hour shadow, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
That's known as a 72-hour shadow, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
Hour shadow, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
It's also interesting to note that in this particular telecast, we get a prominent view of the hatch window. Both Cernan and Stafford comment on the particles that have congealed on the outer pane. Watch now as Cernan describes what he's looking at.
Roger.
Houston, the hatch window is phenomenally clear. There's what appear to be a few dust particles on the outside, maybe a couple smear prints on the inside. The right-hand window has got a little bit of a smear on the outside, not necessarily particles, but just a general smear. And the left side window has got some definite particles lashed across it. Bit of a smear on the
Do you
outside,
think
not
his lips
necessarily
look synced
particles,
to
but
his
just a
voice?
general smear. And the left side window has got some definite particles lashed across it.
In this telecast alone, we have seen not one, but 3 examples of uncut audio synchronized to edited video footage. It's also interesting to note that in response to the blue light we later saw filling the hatch window on Apollo 11, some folks have suggested that it was sunlight being refracted through the multi-paned window, even though the sun was filling up window number 5 at the time.
Yeah, those are both the 2 star charts that he is using right now as sunshades over the right-hand window, window number 5. Roger, we see the sun shining in through it behind him, and
a similar situation is seen on this previous mission when we see the hatch window. Though not completely filling it, we can distinctly see a blue light shining through it. You might argue that this is just a refraction of the sun's light. However, in this transmission, the astronauts make it clear that none of their windows have a view of the sun or the moon some 9,000 miles away.
At this time, as we look at the Earth, we are 210,000 miles away. We've only got about 9,000 miles to go to the moon. We're traveling approximately 2,500 miles an hour relative to the Earth, around the moon. Right now, we cannot see the moon, even though it is rapidly accelerating towards it by its mass. Over.
Roger, Tom. We copied. That's a very good description. We copy. We have you entering the lunar penumbra at this time. Do you notice the sun setting at all? Over.
We can't see the sun right now, Charlie.
Roger.
We're not in the right attitude to see it. In this attitude, to look at the Earth and everything, we can't get a picture of the sun that we can see. If there's any solar corona, we'll give it a quick shot.
Roger. Jack is estimating you'll have about 30 seconds only. Over.
Okay, Charlie, it appears that the sun's reflection on Snoopy here is getting a little bit dimmer. So we very well could be where you say we are. I hope we are.
Along with the telecasts, the Apollo 10 crew also shot a series of videos with their 16mm data acquisition camera. Out of all of them, there is one shot that is quite questionable. We see Gene Cernan and the window behind him. There is no question that there is a little white dot outside that window. What could it be? However, this is where the tape ends. For all we know, that little white dot could very well be the moon 240,000 miles away. But here's the interesting part. In this piece of 16mm footage, we can clearly see the hatch window completely filled with a blue light. Because both Stafford and Cernan are seen wearing beards in this video, it tends to suggest it was filmed around the 72-hour mark, when our heroes had absolutely no view of the sun or the moon.
Right now we cannot see the moon, even though it is rapidly accelerating towards us. We can't see the sun right now, Charlie.
Roger.
We're not in the right attitude to see it.
So, if the blue light we see coming through the hatch window in these two videos could not be from the sun or the moon, where else could it be from? Oh, and our view of the Earth before terminating the 7220 telecast? We see it, but not before the lights go out.
Okay, Charlie, we'll terminate this pass with one quick look outside and see how the 210-foot dish looks at the Earth from outside, okay?
Roger, 10, we're standing by, over.
Also seen in the 16mm reels is one brief clip of Cernan standing in front of the hatch window, with a little white dot outside it. Of course, this little clip lasts only a few seconds anyway, and that little white dot could very well be the moon viewed from Earth orbit. That's all for the Apollo 10 TV transmissions filmed on the way to the moon. But on the way back, 4 more were shot. The first one at 147 hours and 23 minutes. The second one, 152 hours, 29 minutes and 19 seconds. The third, at 173 hours, 27 minutes and 17 seconds. And the last one, at 186 hours, 51 minutes and 49 seconds. In the 147.23 telecast, the view of Earth we see is clearly behind a pane of glass, as a congealed particle is seen lancing around in front of the Earth. The edge of the window is also visible. However, much like Apollo 11's little gem, all we see inside the capsule is darkened walls and no astronauts.
And you can see what I mean about the apparent diameter.
Okay, 10, we've got the moon now. It's coming in nicely.
For the 152.29 telecast, we start off with a view of the moon before one of the Earth.
Roger, Gene.
Between them, of course, is darkness.
Let me take you over, Bruce, to show you the Earth from Tom's window.
Right in the middle of Stafford's monologue, however, the camera suddenly cuts.
At this time, you should have the Earth coming through on your set down in Houston, over.
Roger, we've got it.
Okay, Houston, Apollo 10, we're looking at the Earth out our left window. We're now approximately 168,000 miles on our return journey to the Earth, and again, relative to the Earth, we're traveling approximately 3,500 miles an hour. As you can see the Earth there...
Just before the camera cuts, Stafford reports, "We're travelling approximately 3,500 miles per hour." After the cut, he says, "As you can see the Earth there, actually, it's upside down with the white cap as the North Pole."
We're traveling approximately 3,500 miles an hour. As you can see the Earth there, actually it's upside down with the white cap as the North Pole. And
A look at the transcript reveals a whopping portion of Stafford's description of the Earth has been cut from the Spacecraft Films DVD set, and the telecast presented as complete when it isn't. It seems yet again, when we go back inside the spacecraft, the camera blacks out.
okay, Houston, we're going to take you inside the cockpit for just a couple of minutes here. Over.
Roger. Okay, we got the interior scene. Looks like you're looking at the dosimeter, or the radiometer there.
The same thing happens in the 173-27 telecast, though we do see the Earth disappear behind the number 1 window.
Okay, we'll take you outside now and show you how the Earth looks today. It's starting to get bigger as we approach 100,000 miles.
Roger, we'll stand by for your commentary. Charlie, we'll have it in a minute. It's just coming right over the window at you. Here it comes now. Roger, we have it then, out.
And John will take the camera there and go right and take it out to our center hatch window. And here you can see the Earth as it starts to go out the left side window.
Roger. Houston, we got just 30 seconds left on the high gain on this pass. Looks like we won't catch you this time, Charlie, but that big low pressure cloud cell, very distinctive over the Alaskan area, Aleutian area, is very distinctive to us with the naked eye. We can't quite get it for you out this hatch window at this time as we're going. Roger. We'll stand by then. We got about 20 seconds left or so, and if you want to show us, it'll be stand by in 8 more minutes, and we'll have the high gain back if you want to keep the camera up. Over.
I can't help but sense a pattern emerging when the camera cuts during the final telecast of the Earth. Just before the cut, Stafford says that he can see Saudi Arabia, the Gulf of Oman, and the Indian Ocean at the same time. After this cut, Senan says, Tom's going to zoom the TV into the Gulf of Oman.
But also we can see Saudi Arabia, the Gulf of Oman, and the Indian Ocean at this time.
Tom's going to zoom the TV into the Gulf of Oman. Let's see what you can see there.
The transcript reveals that Stafford's, and I'll give you a little zoom here in on Saudi Arabia and India, was cut from the spacecraft films DVD. Our old friend, the particle on the outer pane, is back too, it seems. And of course, there is a shot of darkness between the Apollo 10's final view of the Earth and the final interior view.
And why don't we take you inside the cockpit for one quick minute?
Okay, we have it inside the cabin now, Tom, and we got a pretty good look at a clean-shaven command module pilot there.
Having watched every last minute of flight footage included on the spacecraft films DVD, I can safely say that there is no bona fide view of the Earth from Apollo 10, as the shot always cuts away or blacks out from interior to exterior. There seem to be plenty of transparencies in this video set. On the other hand, there is also what can be considered gems. With this in mind, we must conclude that some of these views of Earth may have been filmed using a backlit transparency over the window, others were most likely filmed on Earth in a studio environment, inside a CSM mock-up with a globe outside the window, and then sandwiched between actual flight footage. But finding the answer to how the views of Earth were faked has only asked more questions. Why is it, in multiple circumstances, the audio is uncut, but the video it's running alongside is clearly edited?
And a color for the people over in that area, but probably seeing it in black and white.
If these scenes were broadcast as they were on the Spacecraft Films DVD, then what the world saw wasn't live at all. As any filmmaker knows for a fact, these kinds of edits take place during post-production, not whilst the film is being recorded. It would not have been possible to cut and paste the footage as they were broadcasting it to the world. One might argue that maybe the astronauts cut the camera and then started rolling moments later. However, if that were the case, the audio in the telecasts would also be cut.
Oh, quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen, Tom.
Instead, the dialogue runs synchronized to these videos with no signs of interruption when the video cuts. And the transcript confirms that the video matches the dialogue. The only plausible explanation for this is that these views of Earth were pre-filmed, edited together, and then broadcast with the ground-to-air communications dubbing the video, regardless of the edits.
But probably seeing it in black and white.
In spite of these obvious cuts in the Apollo 10 transmissions, and also the little gem from Apollo 11, the propagandists still insist that, quote, the video from the command module during the coast phase of the voyage was broadcast seamlessly with no breaks or cuts from one camera to another. But clearly, this is not the case.
Probably seeing it in black and white.
The continuous video claim is just another pad to their long, sad and sorry list of lies. Another lie that can be added to the list is Spacecraft Films' claim that their DVD set contains the complete, raw footage from Apollo 10. If this is true, why are portions documented in NASA's transcript clearly absent in the telecast they sold? What is Mark Gray hiding from? In my bona fide search for the truth, it has become clear that when there is something, anything, that the propagandists do not want you to know about, they absolutely will not show it to you or even mention it to you, ever. Sadly, we may never know the significance of what Spacecraft Films was excluding. In addition to the Apollo 10 telecasts, when shown the Transparency telecast, Dr. Edgar Mitchell claimed to have recorded a view of the Earth on Apollo 14.
This is, what is this? Oh, this is a shot from 130,000 miles out. I guess it's from approaching. It's from approaching the moon, looking back at the Earth. Now, I've seen this on a couple of flights. Was this something that you got? Although this is from Apollo 11, did you shoot a shot of the Earth like this? So you had a TV camera in the spacecraft.
That's correct.
I checked the DVD set released by Spacecraft Films. In total, the Apollo 14 crew filmed only 4 telecasts, 2 on their way to the moon and 2 on their way back. They also shot some 16mm footage. Yet, despite Mitchell's claims, not a single one of them showed a far-off planet Earth. And the booklet that came with the DVD set makes no mention of any such video, even though the back cover claims the set contains all the transmissions filmed on Apollo 14. Given this apparent discrepancy, either Mark Gray or Edgar Mitchell is being untruthful in their stories. If the Apollo 14 crew did indeed shoot telecasts of the Earth, why were they not included on the Spacecraft Films DVD? What are they hiding? On the other hand, if Spacecraft Films are the ones telling the truth, and no such footage existed in the first place, why did Edgar Mitchell tell us otherwise? What is worth noting about the included transmissions is that in the second one, whilst the astronauts float around in zero gravity, we do see the moon outside the window behind them.
Okay, we can see it now. It's right down in the lower right quadrant of the window. The picture, though we're seeing, is a crescent, and it's really not showing too much of the detail yet. Okay, I assume you're zooming the camera now, Ed, and we lost the picture of the moon.
A natural question is obviously raised by this. Why not the Earth?
Okay, Houston, I got a question. Does that picture fill up your whole screen now? I want to correlate it with our monitor.
Negative. We got about quite a ways to go before we fill up our screen.
But these blatant cuts and edits are not only present in the CSM television footage, oh no, but also in the lunar surface footage. 3 years after his epic journey to the moon on Apollo 10, Gene Cernan would get another trip to the moon. But this time, as commander of Apollo 17, he would get to touch the moon this time. Also this time, Apollo 10 Capcom Jack Schmitt would follow him onto the surface. During their first EVA, they planted the 6th and final flag on the moon.
Cut! Jesus fucking Christ, Neil! How many times do we have to try this? One small step for a man. Not man, a man, and that's you. Everybody take 5. Neil! Practice your fucking line! Oh yeah, let's use real pilots. I want to use real pilots.
Propagandists usually love to argue, why didn't the director just go for a second take when he saw the flag waving? Unfortunately for the propagandists, we can now prove visually that the director did indeed do just that. The flag ceremony, of course, was televised by the lunar rover's onboard remote-controlled camera, called the Ground-Controlled Television Assembly. But alas, when it aired, few people saw it, as the billions of taxpayers had now completely lost interest in the moon landings. Fortunately though, this ceremony is now part of a DVD set released by Spacecraft Films, so we can now see what they missed. On the back cover, Mark Gray makes his selling point. He claims his DVD set contains complete in-flight television transmissions, including the 3 lunar EVAs. With this in mind, let's watch the flag ceremony that took place during the first EVA. Watch now, as Gene Cernan and Jack Schmitt assemble the flag on the moon's surface.
I've never put a flag up in the moon before. What? Pull that in. You're going to have to get it down to my level. Tall guys are all alike. Wait, I'm not through. Okay. How about getting it stretched out here? I will. I just can't start forward as fast as I'd like to. Hate to touch it, my hands are so dirty. Okay? Yeah, it's going to want to curl. Maybe it'll, that's what it looks like, it's waving in the breeze. Yes, sir. How about right there? A couple this way, and we'll take a couple that way. How's that? Oh, let me get over to the other side. You got the rover in the background. Yeah, and the limb. It does wave when you do that.
We got a beautiful picture of you guys up down there.
Let me tell you, Bob, this flag is a beautiful picture. You see that? Okay, it's partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.
In case you missed it,
okay, it's partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.
one more time.
Okay, it's partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.
Obviously, not only does the camera suddenly cut, a transition fades the 2 clips together. This ultimately proves that the footage has been edited. As was the case with the Apollo 10 footage, someone has been caught cheating here. Just before this sudden transition, lunar module pilot Jack Schmitt says the words, It's partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. After the first clip fades out, he then says, "How's that?"
You see that? Okay, it's partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.
A quick look at the Apollo 17 transcript logs these two quotes as one statement, not two, suggesting that this clearly edited sequence happened in real time. Also worth noting is that unlike the Apollo 10 transcript, no mission time marks are given for the quotes made during lunar EVA. All the NASA footage I've shown you came straight from the spacecraft film's DVD sets.
Pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.
It seems not only did the director go for a second take, he used both of them in the finished project. The American flag has become a symbolic highlight of the Apollo moon hoax. William Bryan may have discovered the waving flag, but I discovered the fading flag.
Partially covering the rover, but I think it's a pretty good shot. How's that? Let me get the focus right.